Hello, this is the story of Ruku and the Black Pearls. The soft thud woke little Ruku. She had always been a light sleeper, even when she was a baby. Now, all of 11 years, little Ruku was no longer little. While just last week, Amma and Achan had gone to the market to buy her a dress in her favorite color, green. When she asked if there was a festival coming up, Achan had simply said no. The red goddess had come by and blessed her. Little Ruku didn't understand, but she didn't inquire further. Achin was traveling tonight, so Ruku had to sleep next to Amma. She didn't like sleeping next to Amma too much. Amma snored too loudly for Ruku's comfort. But Ruku had other things on her mind. The boys in her school had teased her all week, calling her a leaking faucet, among other names. She'd understood the changes in her body the instant she'd seen the red color. But Achan was bent on presenting her with the story of the Red Goddess. Not having the inclination to make him realize she was no longer little, Ruku chose to stay quiet. But the boys in her school were another matter. She would have to find a way to get them to shut up. Another soft thud. The coconuts were going crazy in the light summer breeze. Unable to sleep, Ruku pushed away the light sheet and got up from the pyre. Amma had turned to her left, so she didn't really notice when Ruku slinked away. Honestly, why she needed someone sleeping next to her when Achan was not home, God alone knew. The woman began to snore the moment her head hit the pillow that had become hard from years of use. It's not that Ruku's parents were poor. They were just not into material possessions. Achan spent all his money on his small farm. Amma spent the money she made from tailoring on books. So when Amma wasn't snoring, she was reading. Tonight seemed darker than most nights, Ruku thought, as she stumbled out of Amma's room and made her way to the outer veranda, the moon barely casting any streaks on the old cylindrical pillars that adorned the sit-out. This was the most beautiful part of Ruku's house. It was newer than the rest of the house because Achan had spent money building this extension just before Ruku was born. Lakshmi is coming home, he'd said. It seems when Ruku was born, her father had looked at the alignment of the stars and shook his head. Can you believe it? He didn't allow Amma to come home from the hospital for 5 days. She and Ruku had to wait for the auspicious time. The veranda now smelled of dried peppercorns. Amma had spread the drupes to dry just that morning. Part 2 of Ruku and the Black Pearls. Centuries ago, Muchiri was a flourishing and glorious seaport, an urban hub that nestled along the Malabar coast. Located on the shores of the Paravur River, which is a branch of the Periyar River, the city's story is an incredible addendum to the lost tales of South India. Legend has it that tradesmen, sailors, and explorers from European countries charted their course to Muchiri in search of spices, among which the most revered being pepper. Arabs, Romans, Greeks, everyone wanted a taste of pepper. And even when they got their hands on some, they couldn't have enough. So they'd take the pepper back to their lands where it became the rich man's currency. Emperors settled scores and wars with sacks of pepper. Once, when Rome was under siege, the emperor gave the intruder 3,000 pounds of pepper to go away. The intruder never returned. As it came to be known for its medicinal value, the demand for pepper increased, as did its price. So much so that the apothecaries of the time began recommending pepper for all sorts of ailments and illnesses. One day, in an ancient village in Europe, a little girl went to her local apothecary in a quiet emergency. Her stomach had distended to the point of bursting and she was in terrible pain. The apothecary took one look at her and immediately went into his stores. There, in a small little vial, he prepared a very thick concoction. He dabbed a little onto his palm and rolled it into a small little pearl. As soon as he placed the pearl on the woman's tongue, her bloated stomach returned to normal. Color returned to her cheeks and her hands were no longer quaking with fear. The apothecary gave her a small bottle of the concoction and asked her to use it judiciously for 5 days every month. In no time at all, every girl and woman in the village and the nearby villages began to use this concoction. Soon they banded together and started their own club, the Black Pearls. These women were fearless, strong, and incredibly intelligent. They read to each other, wrote and composed songs together, shared secrets, and even challenged the men of the village in matters of administration. The village elders were unable to tolerate these developments. One night they got together and hatched a plan to kill the apothecary. All set to roll out their plan in 2 days, the men went back to their homes. Unable to control their excitement, the next night some of them got together for a round of merriment and began to boast of their plans. And one of the Black Pearls heard them. The next night changed the course of that village's history. Over time, the village came to be governed by the Black Pearls. The elders found a better vocation, drying pepper drupes in their yards. Part 3 of Ruku and the Black Pearls. Ruku closed the book on Mujeri and kept it back in the shelf in the kitchen, the only place that was her mother's. The vessels and the books in there were Amma's business. Ruku leaned back against the cold stone of the kitchen wall. Her mind was reeling with what she had just read. The Black Pearls. Wow. Strong, fierce, powerful, and single-handedly capable of bringing about change. Her mind was made up. It was time for the Black Pearls to return. The next morning in school, Ruku found herself seated between Satishan and Raman during biology. Hey, leaking faucet! Hey, leaking faucet! Satishan whispered, and Raman only snickered. Ruku's resolve grew harder. In the lunch break, she gathered some of her girlfriends around and told them of her plan to start the Black Pearls Club in school. Each of her friends had been teased by the boys when their time had come. So in a way, they were all ready to exact revenge. By the end of the day, the club had formed. Ruku had packed about 50 to 60 dried pepper beads from her mother's kitchen that morning. The girls took a few beads and wrapped them in their handkerchief, which was usually pinned on their chests as part of their school uniform. As they began to walk back home, they could feel the courage fill their hearts. Their hands and legs found new vigor. They found themselves walking straight and upright. Proudly, they strutted down the old beaten road. The boys had started walking ahead of them, but in no time at all, the girls caught up with the boys. Hello, faucets. Who's leaking today? Satishan smiled away. Ruku waited. She really wanted to give him a head start before they all pounded him to the ground. But the idiot continued. Oh, Ruku, did you fix your faucet? He smirked again. And the Black Pearls didn't need any further incitement. They pounced on him. And when his friends tried to help him, the Black Pearls trounced them too. The next morning, parents of the Black Pearls were called to school. Achan was still traveling, so only Amma went for Ruku. 10 minutes later, Amma and Ruku walked out of the principal's office. Ruku couldn't believe she'd been suspended for a week. Amma, though, had a smile on her face. It's okay, Ruku, Amma said. In my time, we were suspended for a month. The black pearls then finally walked back